from a member of the audience. And let's pitch this out, and Judge Fields, you will have the first response. Would you support a law requiring voters to approve property tax increases?
Well, we actually do already have a law that requires voters to vote on a property tax increase if it goes over a certain level. It's currently at 8%. So I don't have a problem with that. We try to operate under that anyway. So I don't have a problem with that. We need property tax reform that is done in the right manner, which is basically the state funding the schools at the proper level, so we don't have to have these crazy jumps in the appraisal values. I'll go back to my math statement. The appraisal value times the rate that we set is the revenue for the county. If the state would fund schools at the proper level, they wouldn't have to go in there and increase our appraisal values as much as they have. Thank you.
Mr. King?
Our current governor, Governor Abbott, has proposed a plan to reform all property taxes. He addresses setting or correcting the problems with unfunded mandates. He addresses the problem with school funding. He addresses the problem with lowering caps on cities and counties down to from 8% down to 2.5%, and not just allowing for a petition if they go over that, but then requiring an election if they go over the 2.5%. I support that plan because it addresses all aspects. It's not just one thing to try to fix one aspect of the problem, but it addresses all aspects of the problem. So I wholeheartedly support Governor Abbott's plan to correct our issues with taxation.
I completely agree with Mr. King. Governor Abbott's plan is well thought of, and it makes a lot of sense, and I will work very closely with, like I said, our state officials to see if we can get it passed in the next legislative session.
Mr. Lewallen?
Depending on the aspects of the bill, I wholeheartedly agree that taxpayers should have a say in a vote on that issue. Once again, it depends on how the bill is structured, but 100% I agree.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. King will be the first responder to this. What is the one overriding issue that motivated you to run for Eastland County Judge?
Oh, that's difficult. The one overriding issue. Well, I've honestly thought that for a long time that my calling has been to be a judge, and I wanted to get back in this work for ever since I left it. Whenever I left, initially went to work for my church, I told them then, look, I'll give you 5 years, but at some point I plan on running for county judge, and we're going to have to find somebody else to replace me. And this time, and I've had people for the past 8 years trying to convince me to run, and I've pushed it off and pushed it off and pushed it off, partially because I like Judge Fields. He and I have worked closely together. I consider him a friend of mine, and I never wanted to run against him. Whenever he left the JP court and went to county court, I went into the JP court, and we just worked closely together. However, those calls to run have increased, and especially in the last budget process, I know at Cisco we were dealing with our own budget troubles, and the county was dealing with their budget troubles, and I felt like now's the time to move, and I couldn't refuse those calls any longer.
In one word, passion. My husband and I have attended numerous city council meetings meetings in Cisco. We used to for several years. We have attended a few commissioners' meetings, looking over the accounting books, speaking with citizens, visiting with people who have held offices. I want to see, more than anything in the world, Eastland County prosper and grow. And I think we've done Rex has done a really good job the past 10 years. I just really believe that there's a few little issues that need to be looked at a little bit harder, done, and I see us going in a different direction. But it all pretty much bottom line, it's passion for Eastland County.
I'd have to say that it's timing on my part. I've always wanted to run for county office, but I've been busy with my private practice, and primarily, main thing, I've been busy raising my kids. My daughter's in college now. My son's a sophomore in high school. If I was elected, by the time I took office, he'd be in his junior year. I didn't run for office previously because I didn't want to miss out on raising my kids. But I think at this point in my life, it's something I've always wanted to do, and once again, it's just time. The time's right. Thank you.
I think the one overriding reason for me is when I was in high school, I wanted to be an attorney. And I had plans to go to Texas Tech Law School, and as quite often happens, life interfered. Life became something different than going to law school. I had a successful real estate and insurance business in Cisco for many years, and we had a JP that died, and the current county judge came by and said, "I think you'd make a good JP." And I thought, well, that's kind of a neat way to come back into the legal field as a justice of the peace. And so I was appointed, and then I ran, and I was elected for JP and served for 3 years and 4 months. I enjoyed the legal aspect of that job. When the county judge that was there, when I was JP and he was a county judge, Brad Stevenson, he said, "I'm not going to run again. You ought to run." So I thought, well, it's a way to expand this. I enjoy the law. I like the black and the whiteness of the law. The law says, you shall do this. We've got another judge in here with us tonight. That's called mandatory. If the law says you may do this, then that's permissive. You can take that action if you think it's in the best interest. I really like that framework that you have to work in. Some of my best friends are attorneys. I like the legal profession. I found out you don't have to be an attorney to be what our position, what we want to be in, and I want to continue in, is a constitutional county judge. That's established by the Texas Constitution of 1876. The framers of that Constitution said that every county in the state of Texas will have one of me at this point. So there are 254 of us in Texas. Of that 254, 222 are non-attorney judges. So that means that about a little more than 12% are actually attorneys. For me, it was able to come in to something that I had dreamt about as a boy at school, and was able to become a judge. I'm at the very highest level that you can be a judge in Texas and not have a law degree. I study really, really hard. I go to a lot of classes. I'm recognized by the Texas Judicial Academy for, I guess, being an overachiever. We have to have 30 hours of training the first year that you're the county judge, and 16 hours each year after that. I will usually have between 40 and 50 hours because it's that important and it's that wide and varied. Finally, to finish up, and I know I'm running close on time, Sean's up here hitting the buttons. I think you're speeding that up. Slow that down. It feels good to me to be able to provide something to someone that the county has a resource for. I'll use an example as a guardianship. If you've got somebody that needs a guardianship, if they are no longer able to function, and you need to be able to get them some relief, if the county judge does that probate matter in the guardianship properly and names the right person as the guardian, it gives a huge amount of relief to both the ward, who is the person in the guardianship, and the guardian who is taking care of that person. The county judge basically takes away the rights of that person and puts them back to the legal status of a minor child. Folks, that's huge. You better do that right. Thank you. It does give a great feeling to me to be able to do that right. I supervise 40 guardianships now. I'm looking at one tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. If anybody would like to see how a temporary guardianship looks, I invite you to come up to county court tomorrow at 9 o'clock. You'll get to see how one starts and progresses. Thank you. Sorry for going over.
That concludes the question part of the program, and you'll now each have time to bring closing remarks, anything you want to say at this point, and we'll begin with Ms. Slaughter.
First of all, I wanted to do the rebuttal for the thing. I use that to reduce my salary from $75,000 to $50,000 strictly as an example. I know that our district court works extremely hard, and I know what an asset it is for our county judge to be able to come in and do that 40%. That, like I said, that I only strictly use that as an example. I fully expect if I am honored enough to be elected judge, I will do the extra 40% for that. Like I said, I'm a conservative Republican. I believe in accessibility and accountability, transparency. Transparency is huge with me. I have looked on their budget items. I have seen, a line item, $702,000. Well, I want to dig in there and find out why it just states that it's a carryover. These are just a few things that I've noticed. I've talked to many different counties, many different county judges, many different county offices, because the county judge position is so important to our county. It holds, like you said, you work with the county commissioners, you deal with the budget. That is what it is run. My husband and I are both self-employed. We both know how a business is run, and Eastland County is technically a business, but it is run on y'all's money and my money. So I would be honored to have your vote. I would like to ask for your vote for Eastland County Judge. If you've got any questions, I've got press cards all over the place. I'm available at any time. I will be out speaking with people, and there's a lot that I still haven't learned, but I am still hitting the books, and I'm still asking around and learning as much as I possibly can, because I have a great respect for the office. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Mr. Lewallen, closing remarks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for being here this evening. I appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and to listen to all of us. Once again, there's two main aspects of the job. One of the big aspects is the judicial part of it. As mentioned before, I've been practicing for 27 years. I've handled everything from Class C tickets to first-degree felony cases. I've tried numerous felony cases, quite a few here in Eastland District Court, in other counties in the state. I think that is one very important aspect of the job in a number of ways. One of them is, unfortunately, some of us that have kids, they're going to be in that judicial system. Hopefully none of y'all's will, but I think as a judge it's very important to evaluate each case, look at each case on an individual basis, and I think one other important thing is our youth today going through the judicial system. I don't think we need to ruin their life, and a lot of things that they could get in trouble for would stick with them the rest of their life. I think it's important as a judge to have experience in dealing with various aspects of the criminal law. I'm well versed in the Code of Criminal Procedure, Penal Code. As an attorney, I'm required every year to take so many hours of continuing legal education. It's 15 hours a year in order to be on the felony appointment list in Tarrant County. Depending on what level of cases you represent individuals on, you have to have even additional continued legal education. So I take approximately 20 hours a year continuing legal education in the criminal field alone. In addition to that, I take other types of legal education. I would continue to do that if I'm elected as your judge. On the other aspect of it is, as county judge, you're the chief financial officer for the county. And I think my experience in running a business all these years will be beneficial in that aspect of the job. As I said, being an attorney, you're dealing with a lot of different individuals and a lot of different personalities, whether it's judges, prosecutors, probation, and your clients. I think that I'm able to do that effectively, and I think I can bring the same thing to the job as county judge, and being able to deal with department heads, being able to deal with county commissioners. And once again, I would like to ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Judge Fields, closing remarks.
Okay, we have 5 minutes for closing remarks. Folks, Eastland County is my home. I've lived here my entire life. My wife and I don't have any plans to move anywhere else, unless you haven't told me about you moving off. Okay, good. We lived in the same house for 28 years. You know, this is where we've raised our kids. This is where we live. There's some projects going on in Eastland County that I want to stay on top of, and I'll just name 2 of them. One is Ranger Hill. Finally, yes, Ms. Dunn, finally, we get something done on Ranger Hill. Netta Dunn's over here, and I may get an amen in this corner over here about that. Ranger Hill, I don't even know why they built Ranger Hill like they did. Probably cost saving. It was not built properly, in my opinion, as a non-civil engineer. But in 1 year, we had, what, 5 or 6 people that got killed on Ranger Hill. I went and talked to the Texas Transportation Board, along with Ms. Dunn and a whole raft of people from Eastland County. We got the speed limit lowered. Then we got some partition concrete slabs put in between to reduce or eliminate these horrible wrecks that are going up and down Ranger Hill. Ranger Fire Department is here. They'll give me an amen, I think, about we don't have the severity of the wrecks that we do. If you drive towards Fort Worth from here, now you'll see that Ranger Hill is being modified. The slope is being lessened. The curve is being straightened out. And what a great idea. Let's put some access roads in there too, so that the first responders can get down to the wreck scene. That is in the middle of that process. I don't want to let up the gas on that. I want that to continue on. The next thing is Lake Leon and the dam and the flood that we had in 2007, 2015, and 2016. The spillway at Lake Leon has got some major engineering issues. I don't know how else to call it. It's a 20-foot concrete cube that allows the water to exit out of Lake Leon. Somewhere along the line, it reduces down to a 10-foot diameter tube, and that creates this huge backwash of water coming back up, and the water cannot get out of Lake Leon fast enough, so it inundates all these houses. In 2007, we had 200-something houses that went underwater. If you're from Lake Leon, you know what I'm talking about. There is a very good plan in place right now that's being funded by FEMA based upon the flood that we had in 15 and 16, along with some General Land Office funding and some CDBG funding from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I actually think this is going to get done this time. We've talked about it. I don't want to let up off the gas on that either. The dam needs to be stabilized. It's an earthen dam if you've never been out there. After the huge floods that we had in 15 and 16, the dam actually started splitting away a bit. The road on the top started disintegrating and splitting. We got that stabilized. Eastland County Water Supply District owns that. It's not owned by the county, even though they use the county name. But they weren't eligible for this funding. The county stepped up and did the grant work administration so that we can get that funding done. The engineering and design plans are well underway. There's a meeting next week at the Eastland County Water Supply District. I think it's on the 15th. If you want to come out and see what that plan is, I don't want to let up the gas on that. I don't know how much time I've got left, Sean. What do I have left? You've zoned out on me.
Got about a minute.
I've got about a minute. There are two other things on the horizon that are coming up that you probably haven't thought about. Commissioner Court precincts are divided by population. We had to redistrict our population in Commissioner Court precincts after the 2010 census. We think that we've done that well enough so that we don't have to do another redistricting. We did that to a very, very small amount of variance between what they told us was optimal and what we could work with. That's why when you see the precinct maps, they look a little bit funny. Precinct 3 is the largest precinct. It goes up, even picks up a little bit of Cisco and a little bit of Eastland. I don't want us to have to redistrict again in 2020, but if we do, I want to be involved so that we get that done in a good, rational manner and allocate the money out by road miles, which is what we did in 2010. Another thing that may be coming up, and it's on the horizon, I think Eastland County is set to grow. You can see some good value coming into the county. You can see some homes being built. You see people moving in here. We may have to start looking at some point at what's called model subdivision rules. I don't like government telling me what I can and can't build in an unincorporated area, but we're only 90 miles away from Fort Worth, and we may have to adopt in County Commissioners Court some kind of subdivision rules so that we have roads and infrastructure that services those developments that are out in the county.
Time.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. This has been a great evening, and I thank you for participating. I know each and every one of us appreciates the opportunity to speak to you, to tell what we're about and what our plans are for the future. And so thank you for coming. It's been a distinct honor of mine to be in your presence tonight. You heard earlier today that my experience, I was a police officer in the military for 10 years, security police in the Air National Guard, 8 of those 10 years being active duty, doing security police work, doing drug interdiction work. After that, I was a police officer. After that, I was a judge. As Judge Fields has said, we kind of resonate. I loved the legal aspect of judicial work. It fit in so well with my history, with my background in law enforcement. I couldn't chase people down anymore. I've had 4 knee surgeries. I had to get out of the patrol car, and getting in onto the judicial bench was probably the best thing that ever happened to me as far as work goes. I love that aspect of the job, and I think I would be very good at it at the county court level in addition to the JP level. I was one of 3 JPs serving in that court for 6 years, and just loved the job. I want to get back into judicial work. That's what I'm here for. I hope you agree that I would be a good judge. Those of you who knew me as a JP, knew me as a police officer, knew my fairness, my quality, the way I treated people. I approached every case without bias. In fact, many people have concerns about police officers then becoming judges because you think, well, they're never going to hear my side. I disappointed some of my longtime police officer friends whenever I found their defendants not guilty in my court because they didn't prove their case. As a police officer, I knew what was required. I knew the standards that were required to prove those cases, and I applied the standards fairly without judgment based on friendship or anything else. I applied those standards equitably because that's what the law requires, and the law is something that I love. I left the JP office to go to work for my church, but in that I had a plan. I needed some experience that I did not have in the JP office because my ultimate goal was to be a county judge. I needed administrative experience. I needed experience at the executive level of a local government. I did that whenever I ran for mayor of Cisco, and I had an outstanding time as the mayor of Cisco. I worked with our city manager back there, Darwin Archer. In fact, I was one of the guys that hired him. And we did some outstanding things in the city of Cisco, and I loved that job. It was very difficult for me to give up being mayor because you're so involved in the growth of your community. And I think that is a very important aspect. Many of you think, why would you find it hard to give up being mayor? You get all the complaints and you get no money for the job. But besides that, the involvement in your community and helping your community grow, helping to structure things, helping to make sure crazy things like the bathroom ordinances didn't come into Cisco, making sure that we had good government at a local level. I loved, and I want to do that for the county level also. I have experience necessary for the judicial side. I have the experience necessary for the financial side, for the administrative side. I also have the experience necessary because there are three aspects of this job for the emergency management job. Between my military service, my police service, my time as the mayor of Cisco dealing with all the emergencies that we had surrounding the floods and the water plant there, I've got the experience necessary to do all aspects of this job. And I hope that you think so too, and I'd ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Well, let me echo the candidates' thanks to all of you for coming. There's probably never been a gathering quite this size like this in Eastland County, not in my lifetime anyway that I remember. But anyway, thank you for coming out, and thank you candidates for putting yourselves in the spotlight, on the spot. And let's just give them all a big hand. And with that, John.
Well, again, I want to thank our candidates. Specifically, I want to thank you for running because I realize it exposes, in a lot of ways, it exposes your life and exposes your family, and it robs your time. I wouldn't say it was definitely theft, but it's time well spent. And it's a lot of hard work, and I appreciate you putting yourselves out there. And for that reason, let's give them another round of applause. I appreciate that. I want to thank the Republican Party Executive Committee for helping put these events together, and Richard for moderating. I think you did a great job. Let's give Richard a round of applause. And I want to thank the audience. I think we counted 156 people here tonight, and I think I've been the chairman. This will be my 6th election cycle coming up. This is the biggest crowd I've ever seen at one of these events. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here tonight. I think it's an important thing for us to come. We're all accountable to somebody, and you guys are accountable to the taxpayers, and we're accountable to each other, and ultimately we're accountable to God for what we do. And so I think that's important. I know tonight if you've gone to any of the other events, you've heard I keep hearing a recurring theme that says mandates, mandates, mandates. And I know our state representative, Mike Lane, I've talked to him about the mandates, and I tell you, there's some conservative state reps that are working hard to try to undo some of the years of, really burdensome government mandates that are getting imposed, and it's a tough battle. And to that end, next week on the 15th, you'll get to hear our state representative debate, and that will be over in at the Wilkes Center in Cisco, and that'll start at 6:30. So we'll have a chance to maybe answer some of the questions that were posed tonight based on some of the things that are going on and being affected on our state and county government. So I encourage you to follow up next week and be there at 6:30 on the 15th over at the Myrtle Wilkes Center. And again, this concludes our program tonight, and I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you.